The thing that I want to talk to you guys about, and I throughout the show, I'm gonna try to step away from the too much coronavirus talk. But in the during this segment, I do want to talk about social isolation and like how the effects that has or can have on us, and why it's important to try to stay busy in these times, not only to keep yourself from being idle, but also to not really stress about what's going on. And so I want to talk about the pros and cons of both targeting a high salary and the pros and cons of targeting uh, your passion. And then we're going to try to come up with some ways of how to use that knowledge to flip it. And you can make your determination on which one is better for you to chase. So the pros and cons of targeting a high salary. So this is what we have right now. Money is obviously one, right? Financial safety and security is one as well. Some people also find it and feel that they have more respect when they are when they have a high salary. So, and also saving money for a rainy day, which in the times that we're in now, you can tell that is important. So those are some of the pros of chasing and focusing on just the salary and what you're doing your career wise, right? And so that those things are all very important. Money, we have already talked about. Safety and security, definitely. Respect, we'll talk about if respect necessarily comes from a high salary, or if it's more envy, or if it's just more of a, hey, I wish I can have that. Saving for a rainy day is probably the most important thing on this part of the list for me, because as someone who has a family, as someone who has to think about their kids eventually going to college and how we're going to fund that, saving for a rainy day, being able to save, period, are things that only are able to do if your salary's higher, if you're living within a certain amount of means to your salary. Um, so yeah, but let's take a look at some of the downsides or some of the cons of focusing on salary and what you do. Underdevelopment. If you start chasing the big money initially, sometimes you don't develop skills that come with chasing, with focusing on passion. Like my mindset, and we'll talk about it here. I really feel that in most cases, your passion can eventually match that salary. It's just about, it takes more time, right? More effort, more things to learn in marketing. But what you're doing over the course of the time is you're learning those things, right? You're learning how to develop, you're learning how to market your passion as a business, you're learning how to price it and how to come. So you're building more skills sometimes that way. So underdevelopment is a thing that could be a con depending on the route that you go about it, if you focus on targeting a high salary first. Second, if you target that high salary regardless of anything else, sometimes you miss the ability to build professional connections. And then that's when you end up being stuck in a job for a long time. And while the salary initially was enough for you, if you're stuck in that job for 5 years or so, who's to say your way of living hasn't changed to where that salary no longer really is the optimal salary that you need? So you chase that high salary. For example, like people coming out of high school or people in the midst of college, like $30,000 a year, 35 is probably a lot for them coming out, and most probably don't even make that. But if 5 years from now you have your first kid, you're getting married, you're that 30,000 no longer goes the same distance that it went before. So think about those things as well. Working hours. A well-paying job does not come free, especially if you target it early. And sometimes you have to put in a lot of time, especially for like me. I was salary when I was working at a casino before, and I eventually had to look at the amount of time that I had to put in being salary. While my salary was high, the time kind of diminished that some. So when you target just that first and you don't kind of build your own way, those working hours can get outrageous. And then it's really, if you look at it, you're really working for like a little bit above minimum wage, because while your salary is high, especially for some of my salary employees, know that they got to put in like 50, 55 hours a week to get the same amount of money that if they did 30 hours a week. So think about that as well. Competition. Now, some people, this may be something that's on the pro side, because some people are very competitive and they thrive in competitive natures. But for some people who have jobs that are like highly profitable entry level positions, I think of like people who sell insurance, or people who are door to door salesmen, which still do exist, even though they probably don't go door to door. They probably go business to business, or they make cold calls, or they get leads. But the competitiveness of that, it's fine when you're young. Like you think of somebody who's like 20, between 20 and 25, maybe doesn't have any kids. That environment probably does build a lot in you in roles of the professional connections, but it also helps your work ethic. But sometimes, like I said again, those things, those environments change. And at some point, when you start having kids, do you really have time to be as competitive and to make cold calls and things like that? So that's something to think of as well. Pressure is the next con. Chasing a high salary, if you're not passionate about it, depending on the field that you're in, can cause a lot of pressure on you that you may not be mentally equipped to deal with for a long period of time. And then you get stressed, then you get depression, and then that's what causes our last con, health issues. Sometimes in some of these high salary jobs that you chase initially, without kind of building yourself up, if you're not passionate about it, if you just go into one, especially like my commission workers, that stress causes health issues, which if you, and a lot of the sales jobs don't pay for your insurance as well. That then builds into your health and it takes away from your health. You can develop sleep disorders, you can develop back pain, physical pain, all these things that then you have to weigh. Is it worth it, what you're putting in to chase these high salary jobs that you may not be passionate about? And again, these things aren't going to overlay to everyone. So I know some people are listening like, well, I chased a high salary, now I'm a general manager at such and such and my life is easier. That does happen. So this is just the things to look out for. And here goes. We're going into now the pros and cons of chasing passion or chasing what you love to do, right? Career growth. If I can talk right. This is the most tangible benefit of this whole thing, is that you become better and smarter at something you love every day, and you find a way to be more efficient at it. There's that age-old saying that say, if you do what you love, have you ever really, are you really working a day, or whatever, however that goes. I'm kind of paraphrasing. But when you build it out yourself and you chasing your passions, if you're passionate about photography, if you're passionate about sound engineering, hell, if you're passionate about building tables and selling those tables, when you look at the growth that's in that, and I already talked about it when I was doing the cons of the other side of it. It's easy to just say, oh, I'm selling more tables now, I'm making more tables, but you got to look at all the skills that you've built in doing that: marketing, selling yourself, selling your business, bringing other people's dreams to reality if you're like a creator or a painter or something like that. And that growth in not only your career, but you're also growing yourself and your passion is almost unmatched. Networking, for someone who doesn't have a traditional job, or if you're chasing your passion, networking comes easy. It's something that me and JB talked about in our segment, is that it becomes really easy because even if it's not within your personality initially, it starts just becoming natural because you're not focusing on the fact of I'm networking or interacting with people that I really don't usually do this. You're just focused on that passion, and it's getting you through and helping you build. And like what we talked about in JB, when he said you can't call yourself an introvert anymore, because I've seen you go from someone who didn't want to talk to people or sending other people to talk to people, so now you're interacting with someone every day. And that I didn't even realize until you said it. And that could only have happened through me chasing a passion. For me, learning. We just talked about that. You learn so many things and so many skills and so much about yourself when you're actually chasing something you're passionate at, because there's nothing like betting on yourself and what that does to your confidence, what that does to helping be able to build the confidence of the people around you and inspiring people. When you learn, when you focus on your passion and try to turn that into your business. Health. We had to talk about health as a con on the other side, so we got to talk about it in this. Being happy in what you do alleviate some of that day-to-day work stress. I'm not going to say you're never going to have a stressful day, even if you do what you love, because there are even going to be times where you think, do I really want to keep doing this, or should I go more traditional route with working? But when you are happy in it, and so even if it's a physically taxing job, it does take away, it does add to your health overall, especially mental health. And that's something that we need to talk about more and more, is mental health. In the age that we live in which we are understanding the importance of mental health more, doing what you love and what you're passionate about is even more valuable. Your confidence, that's another pro in this. When we talked about your learning, but when you're doing what you love and you keep improving, that confidence is building, and that confidence will take you places that the money couldn't. Again, passion will take you where money won't, or money can't. And so that passion leads to confidence, and then that goes everywhere else. Overall pleasure, that is the last pro that we have here, is the pleasure of all of it. Because if you find pleasure in what you do and what your passion is and what you do day to day, that filters in through every aspect of life. And then you'll find yourself being happier. You'll find yourself being able to deal with the day-to-day stresses better. And the things that maybe used to get under your skin no longer are, because you are doing what you love and what you're passionate about. So those are the pros that I came into. Let's talk about some of the cons. Even though we got to be fair, and what I like doing here is talking about both sides of the coin. You can possibly earn less. So if you do what your passion is, it's not always going to be profitable, especially not right away. So you can earn less. So that's something that you have to look out for. Can you afford to earn less for a little while you figure out how to monetize your passion? Sometimes it's hard to relax when you're doing your passion. If you're doing what you're passionate about, it becomes exciting for that initial way, but you always have to be brainstorming, because it's all on you. You are your own marketing team for a while at first. You're your own human resources. You're your own supplier. You're your own everything. So it's hard to kind of chill and detach. And that's something that I definitely experience in this, is that it's hard for me to detach. I live and breathe creating and podcasting and everything at this point, that it affects so much of my mind sometimes that I have to force myself to take a step back and relax. So that is definitely a con of it as well. Failure to meet expectations. Now, in chasing your passion, you may think, oh, well, in a year, I'm going to be making such and such dollars. And if you don't meet that expectation, you start feeling like a failure. You have to be truthful of how long it's going to take your dream to materialize. And that can be a year, that can be 6 months. Some people, hell, it's instant. But you have to realize that there's a very high expectations that your first set of very high chance that your first set of expectations or goals you may not quite meet, and that's fine. You have to weigh if it's worth to continue to pursue. And then the last con in this, and that some people will see, and this is why it's important to be honest with yourself, is that your passion may disappear. Some people are passionate about something because it's not something that they have to do for a living. For example, I love to cook. I even thought about going to culinary school for a while, but then I was like, all right, as much as I love cooking, as much as it's therapy for me, I love doing it for my family. What would that take? And I never chased it because I felt like that would take away from me loving to cook for my family. If I have to do that for a job, I'm going to come home and I'm not going to want to cook. So your passion could disappear if it's something that you now have to rely on. And that's why I say, even in what we're talking about, I'm not necessarily saying you should try to chase your passion as your full-time source of income. I'm saying if you can monetize it, do it. If you can monetize it to the point to where you can live off of it, definitely try to obtain it. But this is more so about focusing and finding your passion and then putting time into that whatever way you can. If that works, that you can go full-time with it, then definitely do it. But you can find that your passion does disappear when you are building tables. To keep with our previous example, if you're building tables, and let's say you build 1 or 2 tables a year or every 6 months, but then you decide, all right, I'm going to build tables permanently, and now you're building 6 to 8 tables freaking every couple of weeks or whatever, or however fast you can do it. You may find, hey, I really don't like this table shit anymore. So you have to, that could be a con of it, is that some passions are only passions because they aren't something that you have to do all the time. And if it becomes that, your passion may slip away from it. So that's the last con of chasing your passion rather than chasing the money. So now, more so, I gave you guys pros and cons, but I like to figure out and always give you guys something to walk away with on how you can make that decision, or things to think about if you're in the midst, especially with like this current age that we're living. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and those jobs aren't going to come back, and they're maybe thinking about chasing the passion more so than going back into a traditional job. But these are I'm gonna give you 10 things to consider before making that decision, before you make the decision if you're going to chase passion or if you're going to chase money. First thing is, determine your priorities, because like we talked about, if you're someone who's younger, you may have more leeway to try to chase your passions right now and make less money. But if you have a whole family depending on you, then your priority may be putting money and food on the table for that family, and you can't really afford to take time away. You can't really afford to take time away to chase your passion fully. I still think even in no matter how busy we are, we need to make time for things that we're passionate and that we care about. But you have to determine your priorities. The second thing that you want to make sure and get in line before you decide which way you're going to go is motivation. If you're not going to be motivated either, like, to chase your passion, or if you're not going to stay and be able to stay motivated and chasing a 9 to 5, you need to be honest with yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing throughout this list is you have to be honest with where you were and talk to yourself. We don't always talk to ourselves and get ourselves in a position to where we can be honest and even determine what we really want, because we don't talk. We're not honest with ourselves. We convince ourselves of XYZ because it sounds or feels good or feels like the right thing that we should do, the right thing, that we aren't honest. So are you going to be able to stay motivated in either way? Third thing is location. I can't say enough. YouTube and podcasting can be done anywhere, but and everyone has tables, so I guess our previous example isn't going to work. But for example, if your passion for some reason is yard design or landscaping, I guess is the thing, but if you live somewhere in a place that landscaping isn't going to be a thing, then unfortunately you're not going to be able to chase that passion while you're in that location. So you gotta be honest with where you are physically, not mentally at this point, where you are physically. For example, like the cost of living of where you are. You have to look at it like everything, even in chasing your passion. And if you get to the point where you're trying to do it full time, there's a certain way of living that you have to maintain, especially if you live in New York. You can't just chase a passion that's going to make you $20,000 a year unless you're going to have like 15 roommates forever. But so you got to think about location and how expensive it is to live where you are, and then also how sustainable is your passion in the area you're in. And I am, as a military brat, as someone who moved, I'm never against moving somewhere that is more conducive to your passion. So consider that as well. Location is very, very important. 4, age group. It's so much easier to learn new skills and, like I said, take the chance of a less salary if you're younger. I'm not saying generally, this isn't an ageism thing, but it's true. And if you're a college student, you have more time to find your passion. Whereas if you're someone with me who found your passion late in life, you kind of have to figure it out in the midst of also maintaining your and your family's lifestyle. So age group is important. If not necessarily the age group of your passion, because ageism and stuff like that, I don't factor and believe in. But as far as like how many other people are going to be affected by the decision you live in. When you're younger, less people tend to be affected by you chasing your passion. Whereas if you're older, you have a family, there are more people that are affected by that. And that goes into number 5 is, do you have children? Because overall, as parents, we have to put ourselves in a position to best provide for our children financially, as well as mentally and physically and all those things as well. So you got to think, if you're chasing your passion, what does that do to teaching your kids how important it is to chase it? But also, if you're chasing your passion over necessarily the money right away, how does that affect the way that you're able to provide for your kids, which we talked about as well? Number 6, unemployment. Especially now, like a lot of freelance videographers and photographers don't have work. So are you going to be able to sustain if there are periods of you not being able to work on your passion? Or if you're thinking about quitting your full-time job to go into your passion, can you afford that? Can the way that you live without it causing more stress on you, can you afford that? 7, friends and family. And this is something that a lot of people have different thoughts on, because I don't have the expectation necessarily for my family to listen to my podcast or to watch my YouTube videos. I like the encouragement more than anything. And some people really find it hard to get motivated if their family, the people that are closest to them, aren't supporting them the way that strangers are supporting them. So your friends and your family are the people that are closest to you. Are they going to be able to help you if you need that help? If that's something that you rely on, are they going to be able to support it, or is it going to start causing turmoil, especially in your family? And if it does cause turmoil there, are you equipped to deal with that to still get through chasing your passion? Number 8, consider the long-term goals. I can't stress that enough. You have to have a plan. It's easy to just say, I'm going to quit. I'm going to podcast every day for the rest of my life. Okay, but how are you going to monetize that? How are you going to turn that into something? Are you going to go on live show tours? Are you selling enough merch? Or is it a combination of all these things? Are you going to be sound engineering as well? Like, it's a lot of different things to consider, but you have to have those long-term goals set. I like to go into everything with a very short-term goal, so maybe 30 to 60 days where I want to see myself, another one, a mid one, so another 4 to 6 months, where do I want to see myself there, and then a longer one where I want to see myself at the end of the year, and then an even longer one from that. What do the next 5 years look like, ideally in my head? And then also set up points to really stop and to look at, all right, how many of the goals have I hit? How if I haven't hit them, how have I called an audible? What have I done? You have to always be adjusting those long-term goals, because where you think you're going to be in 5 years today may drastically change in just a week from now. So think about those things as well. And 9, this goes back into being honest with yourself. Do you really know what you want? I can't say that enough, that we don't take enough time to really think about what we really want. You know, it may sound good to be able to podcast for X amount of time and X amount of days, but is that something that you really, really want? Or is it just something you're doing because it sounds good? What do you truly want? You have to be honest with yourself. And number 10, the last one, the most important one, is trust your instincts. I can't say it enough that most times in business and relationships and jobs, we already know how things are going to go. We have an instinct about it. We don't always listen to it because we ignore it for several different reasons. But you have to trust those instincts, especially if you're betting on yourself and your passion. Those instincts are what's going to separate you from the other people around you. Is trust your instincts. Trust how your perspective on things. And this is why it is important to talk to yourself. We always try to see it as talking to yourself is a negative thing, when talking to yourself really just means you trust yourself. So trust your instincts. Trust what comes in your head, and trust if you feel like you got to go left instead of going right, trust that, because there's a reason why your body is telling you you should go that route. Trust your instincts. That's the last thing. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this episode, this segment, this idea that I had, conversation with me and JB. I want to thank you guys all for listening. Yeah, that's it. I ain't got nothing else for you guys. Let me know, are you guys chasing your passion? Are you chasing the money? I would love to hear from you. You can do that by sending an email to theawakensoulpod@gmail.com, or you can also send us a voicemail or just call, and that's 614-547-2039. Lastly, if you want to follow the podcast, and I'll give it at the top of the show, give it to you again now. Follow it at Awaken Soul Pod or at The Awaken Soul Pod, just depending on where you're looking for us at. You can also follow me personally at CEO Haize. I am available for any photography, videography gigs. There you go. See, I got to chase my passion. But I want to thank you guys seriously so much for just the support over the last, our 3rd year anniversary is coming up. That's wild. Wow, yeah, 3rd year anniversary is in about 6 months. Damn, that's crazy, man. We've come so far. Shout out to the Breaks Media. Shout out to we actually have some meetings with some other creatives who want to join the Breaks Media. So maybe seeing some new faces and hearing some new voices around here. So I'm always excited for that. But that is it. I'm going to go ahead, send you guys away. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your love and support. I love each and every one of you. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.